All right, so when you hop on, everybody, just update your title information on the little three dots on the top right there. You can change your name, which just makes it a little easier. If you start talking, we can identify who you are. We're going to mute you, all of you, and when we get around to the question and answer session, we'll unmute you. Alicia's going to help me with that. If you wish to, this is for our park commission meetings, but if you do want to ask a question, use the raise your hand function. I'm hoping to save all the questions for the end. What I think might be best to do is to type in your question into the chat to everybody, and I'll start opening it up to like people that just want to say something. You can read your question if you want, or I'll go through and I'll read the questions at the end. I'll try to get to all of them, but I don't know if, within reason of timelines here, we got a lot to go over, and I know everybody's really anxious to see what's going on. So we will get started.
John, really quickly, you do not have a chat option. That is something that the public meeting, that's something that they've avoided using because not all people can see access to that. So that is not something that we will be using. So if they hit the raise hand or use the *9, then I'll be able to see the hand raised and I can let you know.
Great. All right. So welcome, everybody. We usually do this orientation night in person, but obviously we can't. We got our guidelines on June 1st. They made some changes on June 6th. We've been sort of working around the clock, developing a policy that adheres to the 33-page document we were given on the 1st. We're extremely happy to have camp this year, which, there was a lot of questions on whether or not we would, but I'm going to walk you through this PowerPoint presentation. Like I said, if you have a question, please try to save it for the end. We'll kind of go through as many of these as we possibly can as far as answering your questions. So we're going to get started. So what will Camp Tahattawan look like this year? Sure, that's the number one question you have. The first thing is we have some new positions that we've added due to the COVID-19 pandemic to help with sanitation. We have Thomas James. He's our camp custodian. I'd like Thomas to introduce himself if he can.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Like John said, my name is Tom James. I'm going to be working as the camp custodian this summer. My primary role will just be working closely with the camp staff, making sure equipment and facilities are cleaned in between uses.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. I'm not sure our camp nurse was able to make it tonight, but Sarah Miller is our camp nurse, so we'll have a full-time nurse this year. Is Sarah on, guys?
I don't think so, Kaz, unfortunately.
All right, okay. No worries. You guys will all have an opportunity to meet her at some point for sure. Our camp directors this year are back again, James Ray, and our assistant director is Rachel Simpson. If you guys want to say hello real quick.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm James. This is going to be my 10th summer at camp. It's going to look totally different than any summer before, but we're still going to have a lot of fun this year.
Like Kaz said, I'm Rachel. I'm the assistant director. It is my 9th summer at camp. And I think I can speak for James, myself, and Kaz to say that we're all really excited for whatever camp's going to look like.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. So I'm going to try to work my way off. So we'll just start with the typical day. We'll start with the drop-off procedure. So we have to have a pre-screening plan for you to be admitted into Camp T. You'll have a written signed checklist, an attestation for children, and staff as well are going to have to adhere to this policy. The pre-screen form will be on the next page, but it's basically, if you're if a staff member or a child's parent answers yes to any of the symptoms on the checklist, or yes to the exposure portion of the COVID-19 policy here with the pre-screening, then they will not be permitted into camp at that moment. So these symptoms include fever over 100 degrees, a cough, a sore throat, difficulty breathing, gastrointestinal symptoms like nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting, fatigue, although that alone won't, have you not be allowed to come in, a headache, any new loss, smell, or taste, loss of smell or taste, new muscle aches, or any other signs of illness. The other last question on there, one of the questions is hand washing. That is something we're asking you to do before you come to camp in the morning. So that will be on the checklist as well. Here is the form that you'll be getting. You'll have to write your child's name. You'll have to have a form for every one of your children. So if you have 2 children, you'll have to have 2 forms, or 3, etc. And you'll just go through. We were asking you to take a temperature check at home and write that into that little line there and answer all those questions. You know, the only one that you can say yes to that would be okay is did you wash your hands for 20 seconds, greater than 20 seconds before leaving for camp? Yes, and then a signature on that line below. I actually have a new form with a signature on it as well. And then there's a line there for us to do a check as well. So our nurse and myself will be greeting your children as they arrive. We'll be wearing facial coverings just like your children will. And parents, even though you're in your car, and I'll go through that, it'll be a rolling drop off. That will come up in the next couple slides here. But the child will come out and we will give them a visual and ask them some of these same questions, as well as take another temperature check, which we'll write on that line there as well, and the time. And then if everything is okay, we will allow your child to enter. They will go in, they will wash their hands with sanitizer from the nurse or myself, and then they will continue on to their groups. And I'll go over that in a little bit more detail. That's just like a quick overview briefly. But this year, instead of the usual walk into camp and sign the clipboard and check in with the staff lead, the group lead, you're going to be doing this drive in and drop off. So you'll be entering off of Goldsmith Street. The green arrows are your entry. We'll have cones as well to kind of mark out with some signage. You'll make your way through the parking lot. You'll come up to to the school. There'll be 2 points of entry, and I'll go over that with you a little bit. So there'll be, myself and Sarah at those locations, checking those folks in. Hi, Ryan. And then we're going to, you will have to exit right back out on Goldsmith to keep the sort of the traffic flow going. I'll go over some more of those with details. So the drop-off procedure will be, you'll have an assigned time to your group. That will start at 8 a.m. every day. If you have siblings of a different assigned group, then you would just pick one of those times and drop your child off as best as you can. This is going to be a work in progress, something we've never done. We're trying to stretch out the drop time for about an hour. We're not sure how long that whole procedure of checking your child in every day is going to take. So we're hoping to give enough time for you to get in and not have to stand and sit in a big line if your time is a little later, like you might have an 8:30 drop-off time. And not everybody's showing up at 8, and it gives you some space time for people to come through and get in there and not be sitting in the line for a while. The parents and caregivers who drop off will have to wear their masks, even though they're not going to be exiting their car. They'll hand the pre-screening form to their child. That will be your sign-in as well. You'll proceed to... your children will have to wear a mask for this part. They'll have to wear them on entering and exiting every day. And you saw the route and the drop-off. The pickup time will be the same as the drop-off. You'll have the daily attestation. And there's one other question on there I didn't go over. It asked if you've given your child medication to reduce a fever, and you have to answer yes or no. And if you do say yes to that, unfortunately, we have to turn you away. So we are relying on you and the safety of the kids to give some really accurate information there. There's also a question about exposure to COVID-19 within the last 14 days. So every time you say, that you haven't, that's just another, checklist that's okay to be safe to come into camp. So again, the 2 points of entry, the main lobby of Shaker Lane, and that may change. We're still working with the school on that detail. That's where we're hoping to use, but it will be in that area. Or that lobby entrance along the first grade wing, and there's a map. I'll show you that on the next slide. The camp nurse or healthcare supervisor. So just a healthcare supervisor is anybody that's first aid trained, CPR, AED, as I am. can be, directed by the healthcare consultant, who is our doctor, our pediatrician who works with us. It's Dr. Amy Kritzer. And we will go through that visual checklist and, we'll verify there's no symptoms and the temperature is under 100 degrees. Then the healthcare supervisor will, just so you know, will be wearing gloves and a mask during this time period. Your child will also be wearing a mask. And after the clean screen of the children and staff, as you know, they'll be doing that as well. They will wash their hands. We're going to do it with hand sanitizer, and they will go to their assigned group room or tent. So we'll be using some tents this year on the Shaker Lane fields for groups. So we'll go over that in a little bit as well. So the group designated areas, so, and you'll see a map on this, so it'll be a little bit more clear, but we have 4 classrooms, we have the cafeteria, and we have tent space for our groups this year. This is our kind of be the home base for your child for the day. And in those rooms, there'll be a 6.5 foot by 6.5 foot square grid, just to be tape or paint out in the fields. And that will be your child's little 42 square foot area to live in during the camp day. They will have their backpacks and supplies and their block, and they will do their best to stay in that block. And sort of the purpose of this block is to maintain social distancing. And this is when your child can take their mask off and, sort of act in, free of the mask for a little bit. We'll go over all the times that you'll have to wear a mask a little later, but that's kind of like one of the reasons for this grid. Each of the group staff will have sanitation supplies and to clean their materials or spaces needed throughout the day as required. And they'll also have log daily cleanings, and they'll have to log that as well as they do that. So here's the 2 points of entry. Anybody knows the Shaker Lane School? The road is sort of down here, and this is the main lobby. I don't know if you can see my arrow. And then this is the first grade wing lobby, and these are the classrooms we'll be living in. So group 1, 2, 3, and 4. Groups 5 and 6 in the cafeteria, and groups 7, 8, 9, and 10 outside. So if you're in one of these groups, and we'll have names for these, we'll go back to our usual tigers, deer, well, no deer this year, but foxes, wolves, all those groups, and then you might have a number because we'll be splitting those groups up probably, depending on enrollment. But so we'll fill the 6 inside areas before we start using the tented areas. But that's sort of that'll be your entryway, and that will also be the same way as the children come out. And that won't change the way you drive through the school and drop off and pick up and all that stuff. But that will at least let you know which door they're coming in and out of. So again, I just went over those rooms and the areas. So those are the groups and where they'll be located. And of course, they'll have their names associated with them, and you'll know your camp group name before camp begins and where they're going to be. So you'll also get an email with your times, the pickups and drop off, and we're going to have a materials list like you have at school this year for you to bring in to limit the shared materials, and I'll go over that as well. So again, that just kind of shows you what groups are, in case you forgot from earlier. All right, so the camp day. So we're going to have, we're hoping for 10 groups of 10. So kids can't be in any groups larger than 10. And they can be with 1, 2, or 3 staff members, depending on their age and their ratio requirements for camp. Most of our groups will have 2 staff members. There'll be just probably the Tigers, which is the oldest group, with 1. And there'll probably be 2 groups based on numbers there. And they'll all be in the same area, more than likely outside. So on the next part is that siblings will be kept together when age appropriate. So if your ages of your children are like a grade apart or 2 grades apart within reason, we'll keep them together. I see Jen does not like that. But if your children are like a 6th grader and a 1st grader, obviously we will split that up. But that is one of the Board of Health requirements and guideline we've been given. So it's not something that we've been able to do. Someone's writing on my screen. I don't know why, or how. The groups or cohorts, they kind of called that in the guidelines, will have the names and designated locations, and they'll be based they'll be based out of there for the entirety of the day unless they go outside to the playground or outside to the fields for use. And I'll go over sort of the schedule in a moment. The tent use will be based again on whether or not the 6 groups inside are filled. So this is an example of a daily schedule of what your child will be doing on the course of their day. The 8 to 9 a.m. drop off, and then they'll have their blocks will be separated into 45-minute slots in which we still have our specialists, we still have our art, science, technology, sports, and music specialists, and they're gonna come up with some great socially distant activities for your children to do. We're going to make this thing as fun as possible, given the guidelines, but you'll be doing that, and the leads and the staff that is with your group will stay with your group for the entire day. They won't be rotating classrooms, or they won't have any visitors outside of their staff that they see. So the 2 people or 1 person you're with will be your person of staff that you'll see for the entirety of the day, other than your pickup and drop off time. They'll be eating lunch inside the same classroom as well, or their tent or their areas that they're in. So this is per Board of Health. Again, this is another guideline we've had to adhere to. So I kind of put a little star there next to the playground use. We're going to sanitize that. We're going to wipe it down or spray it down per the CDC requirements of sanitization. And between each group, that will be like the biggest Thomas custodian job of the day. We'll kind of be running out there, making sure that those are safe areas to touch out there. We'll also be, throughout the entirety of the day, we'll be, the social distancing has to stay intact, the 6-foot rule for everybody all along the way. So that's your typical day. Kind of just can look at that yourself. I don't think I need to go through that individually, but you have the lunch, and then we have like a morning snack and an afternoon snack at the very end is kind of what we normally do at camp. We have those times allotted for those things all every year, so it's not anything really new. Just the fact that they won't be meeting all together to do that. They'll be in their little group. And then the 3 to 4 p.m. pickup time. Sorry, let me get to the next one here. So back to the pickup procedure. So pickup begins at 3 with the reverse order of the drop-off time. So if you had an 8 to 8:10 window for your drop-off, you'll also be the first to pick up. So the people that got there latest will be also picked up latest. The children will sanitize their hands as they exit the group. The parents or caregivers who come will also have a mask again. We'll have you put a sign on your windshield. I believe all the schools here at Shaker, at least at Russell Street, when we went to pick up our things, they did the same exact thing. They put the last name of the child, the first name of the child, and they had their teacher's name, but we're going to have our group. So it might say Wolves 1 or Wolves 2 or whatever group designation we have for your group. And then as you approach, we'll be radioing to the groups, and they will send the child out to us to be dismissed. I just went over that there. As far as the radio portion of that, the Camp T staff will visually sign out children each day, a little checklist instead of the usual signature. If we don't recognize you, obviously you'll be wearing a mask, but we've been asked by the Board of Health to strongly encourage that the same parent or caregiver who drops their children off pick up their child. We realize that's probably impossible every single day. So, anybody that comes will be asked to give an ID that we don't recognize right away, or their car. So we'll be doing the same sort of procedure that we've always followed. If someone came that we weren't sure of, we would check the list, the approved list of people that were there to be picked up, and then we would ask for an ID to verify that person. But once again, the Board of Health has asked to strongly encourage all of you parents to pick up and drop off, have the same person. So that's the drop-off procedure, pickup procedure. So we're going to go through like the what to bring things this year. Hopefully you'll understand that what we're asking for children to bring things in. And I don't have that list yet, which we'll have 1 week in advance of your session. you'll be asked, have an email, and it will have a list of things to bring. It will basically be what you're asked to bring into school. So it's not anything like you need to go out and buy. It's hopefully something you already have. Just kind of the general basic supplies that you would bring to school at the beginning of the year and pick up at the end of the year. These materials will stay at camp for the day and the entire week and be brought home at the end of the week in order to keep them from being, compromised outside of camp. We'll have a very limited supply of shared materials based on the fact that every day we have to sanitize these, but we're going to try to limit touches and interactions of materials with kids that are being used every single day. Sports balls and things that we use for the sports, those are things we can share. Those are easily, quickly sanitized, and then between groups, so we're not too worried about that. But most of the things are going to be something we ask you to bring in, and we'll probably use those things on a daily basis to get us through the camp day. A water bottle, this will be, this is every year we ask for water bottles, and every year we have situations where we don't have any. We're not going to be able to help you out this year by giving you something. So it's very important that you have a water bottle. That'll be something we'll be looking for during the check-in. And so we have like a water refill station where it's a touchless now at Shaker Lane, so it'll make it really easy, but that's kind of called out on the Board of Health guidelines that if you do not have one, and those folks that are in the tents will be using the water jugs that we'll be supplying for water out there, so they don't have to go inside, and that will have to be manned by staff. The lunch, again, is provided by you, the parent or the caregiver. Non-perishable items, we don't refrigerate anything. That's nothing new, but just a reminder. And that will be held, it will stay in the backpack. Usually we take the lunch out and we put it in a bin, and then we get it from the bin at lunchtime and have our lunch all together, but we'll be in our classrooms. They will stay in the backpacks until lunchtime, and then they will take them out, and they will also do the same thing for the snacks and the morning snack and the afternoon snack. This year, a lot of kids come into camp with like a handheld plastic bag, and not always the best thing for us anyway, but we're requiring you to have backpacks this year. We hope that you all have one, clearly marked with your child's name, and that will be kept, with your child for the whole day now, instead of sort of being left on a hook or kind of in the designated area, because the kids have always moved around a lot of camp, but this year they'll be in their square. We're trying to maintain keeping their things with them the entirety of the day. Dress code and footwear, this is kind of normal. We always we always require kids to have closed-toe shoes, and we're not going to the lake this year, so we won't be having kids making the switch. We will be doing like sprinkler time and some water activities out on the fields and out behind the school. So we will probably have you, allow you to pack something. We haven't really talked about that in detail, but closed-toe shoes are what we're asking you to supply your child with when they enter the day. And we're not providing Camp T t-shirts this year. We just, in the laundry requirement and in the guidelines, it says every child and staff must come in with freshly clean clothes every day, and it says even at a high temperature. So instead of trying to have you wear camp t-shirts, and maybe someone gets a favorite shirt they want to wear every day, their camp shirt, and we didn't want to put that little into your equation. So towel and change of clothes, we ask you to bring those for the sprinkler time. They may not have sprinkler time every day, but that's one of the options we've talked about is hopefully giving some sort of cool down time on hot days. So we're working through those details. The pre-screen form, that should be printed out at home. We're going to put out copies here at the Park and Rec office on the 33 Shattuck Street door. So you can come by and grab a bunch of copies if you don't have access to a printer at home. And you'll always be able to pick them up. So if you only get one for the first day, at least when you do a pickup, your child can grab one on the way home. But we're trying to, again, limit the amount of touches of things that we all touch That's something that's been sort of hammered home from these guidelines. What to bring more is face. So the face mask, and those are kind of all the options that we're saying that it's allowable to have. You got the little scarf one, you got the N95 mask, you got the regular cloth over the ear mask, and then you have the disposable mask there all the way to the bottom left. There is exceptions to face mask coverings in the guidelines, and that's for children breathing with the face covering, or who are unconscious. That's if something happens during the day, then that would obviously be able to take the mask off to help comfort them or whatever they need. And any exception to, if your child has difficulty breathing or with their face covering, we're asking doctors building. That's for everybody's safety. It's not just for the safety of your child or your comfort. That's something that, as you all know, and living in this new world is something that we're all sorry, I'm trying to I have a lot to say.
You're doing awesome. Keep it up.
Alicia's texting me. She's distracting me. So what not to bring? Cell phones or electrics of any kind? Or electronics of any kind. It just messes up my rhythm, Alicia. I'm trying.
I'm just telling you to slow down, and that there are times that you sound garbled.
That's what everybody's used to that. So no cell phones or no electronics of any kind. That's not a new policy here at camp. That's just something, just a reminder. Any personal items that may be shared, stuffed animals especially, like soft materials, are something that's called out in the guidelines. So, blankets or toys, any toys are going to be, not permitted at camp this year. So that, we normally have a group, we have a listing of items you can't bring to camp, and that's in the parent handbook. So that is on the website. I'll be sending those out to everybody again as a reminder of those. We're also adhering to our normal policies as well as these, new policies for COVID-19. So what's different for camp for summer of 2020? Many things. No visitors of any kind, no performers, no volunteers. Parents are not permitted to enter or exit the facility at all. So, if you have someone that's sick or been injured that needs to go home, that's going to be something where you're going to meet your child outside. We'll have hand washing facility stations kind of in more places than the usual, just the restrooms. It's not really different that we have hand washing going on, but it's certainly something that it's called out on our guidelines here from the Board of Health, is that there are many times in which we're asked to clean hands. So we will be making sure and monitoring that either hand washing or hand sanitizing happens at these occasions. Entry and exit into the space. When coming into the program space from outside activities. Before eating, after sneezing, coughing, or nose blowing as practical. After going to the bathroom, before handling food. So 3 and 6 are kind of the same, before eating, before handling food. After touching or cleaning surfaces that you feel are contaminated within reason. So if someone sneezes on a table and then someone walks over and puts their hand in it, we're going to require them to wash their hands at that time. Something we would normally do anyway, but certainly something we need to be more responsible for this year. Our staff will be monitoring and making sure that this happens more than ever. After using any shared equipment like toys, computer boards, mouse, or climbing walls, which we don't have, but that kind of gives maybe that's the reference to the playground, but they'll be coming in from the playground. They'll certainly all be washing their hands or sanitizing. If the staff has to assist the kids with washing their hands, they'll also have to wash their hands. Anytime they're touching their mask, so when they enter and they get to their area, they'll take their mask off. Now they sanitize their hands when they got there. They're going to have to sanitize their hands again. So we'll be doing, the staff will be there to assist them. There'll be plenty of hand sanitizer everywhere for them. You're, of course, welcome to provide hand sanitizer if you want, if you have a certain brand you like. But we will have plenty there this year. And then before and after changes of gloves, that's for staff. Children should not be wearing gloves ever throughout the day. So this is something I just got off the phone with the Board of Health agent, Jim Garaffi, and he made sure to make sure that I mentioned this to all of you many times, that communication with all of you, the parents and caregivers, is vital. We are required to have you provide 3 contacts with cell phone numbers that have to be available at any time during the camp day. And we created a form, and we're going to give you this form. It's on top of the family record. It's on top of the medical authorization. This is going to be another form we're going to use as a quick reference to call if something happens, that we can get in touch with you immediately. That list will also have, and I know you normally have this on the family record, a list of people that can be picked up. But this is going to be for emergency purposes. If someone becomes ill or symptomatic, it is imperative that we have your child picked up as soon as possible. So we're going to need to be able to get in touch with you guys this year more than ever. And this is going to be really important. We're going to send you out these forms. We may even have it on our seamless document system that we use for the other forms. And this is what the form will look like. The name, you can fill out 1 per 2 children if you have more than 1 child at camp. The primary contact, which would be yourself, and then the secondary contact and the third contact. These are people that you verified, that you can get in touch with, and that they know my child's at camp this week, and you may get a call. And if that call rings and you see a number that's associated with Camp T, I strongly urge everybody to plug our Camp T number in. I don't have it in front of me, but I will get that to everybody. And it will, that has to be answered. That they couldn't stress how important it is that we need to be able to reach you all in case of, at a moment's notice. And then at the bottom is the list of adults to pick up in case of emergency. So you have your normal list of people that can pick up your child that we have on the family record. But on this list is like, if there's an emergency and my child needs to go home because they become symptomatic, then these people are the people that we can call. And these are 3 people that are not you. So 3 others. We already know to call you first. All right. So I'm going to kind of go through this as quickly as I can, but just so you understand what we've been asked to do for these COVID-19 outbreak system situations or possible outbreaks. So if a child or staff member becomes symptomatic, we had to come up with a plan for that. And so if they have any of the symptoms, the children or staff will be isolated in a predetermined isolation room designated in the potential exposure plan. And I have a map, and I'll show you. There's going to be the staff room, and there's a restroom in there that has to be isolated specifically for someone who becomes ill. And once that happens, during the day, staff will be using that restroom, but that restroom will become only used by the person who's ill until they leave, and then it's sanitized properly. So again, down here, once the child or staff member are in that area, they will wear a mask immediately, and until they're picked up by their caregiver. I wrote case giver, but it's caregiver, and transported to an appropriate facility. Either, if their symptoms are mild, they will go home, or a hospital if it's a severe symptom. We hope that does not happen at all, of course. And then we will once they're in that room, we'll contact the parent immediately to come get them. And that is, again, I'm putting that, and I put that on the family record form. I mentioned that in here. So that, make sure that information is up to date if you haven't done one yet. And, of course, the secondary form, which is going to be on top of that, make sure that there are numbers there and people know you need to be ready to receive a call from us at any given time. So here's our plan for if a child or staff contracts COVID-19, a positive test result, or asymptomatic and presumed to have. So that was the language in there. So it had to be pretty obvious where basically that situation would be if a doctor tells you you don't need to be tested, but we are pretty sure you have it. It's kind of the words we've been given. The staff member or child must not return until they have met the criteria for discontinuing home isolation and have consulted with their healthcare provider, their doctor. We will determine the date and time of the symptom onset for your child or the staff member and determine if that child or staff member attended or worked at camp symptomatic or during the 2 days before symptoms began. We'll identify which children and staff attended worked at camp those days, and then we will determine who had close contact with the symptomatic or positive results individual, and then we will go through the plan. There's another plan a little later about what to do in that specific case, but you'll be contacted if and that will be a contact coming from the Board of Health if they felt that you were compromised at that point. If any outbreak happens, we'll be working closely with the Board of Health nurse or the Board of Health agent, Jim Graffi, and working through any sort of outbreak here. If an individual tests positive but is asymptomatic, isolation may be discontinued at least 10 days after they have passed their positive test result, as long as the individual remains asymptomatic and provides a letter of clearance to attend working at camp or being a camper at camp from their doctor or pediatrician. So this is the outbreak, possible outbreak, potential exposure plan again. We'll use the staff break room for anybody that has any symptoms, and that's kind of denoted there in the map. If you're familiar with Shaker Lane, that's the staff room for the teachers. And that will be the restroom, and it won't be opened again. That entire room would not be open again if we determine that the symptoms are familiar enough with COVID-19 that we send them home based on that it's a possible infection. Then we will sanitize that room before ever being used again. We have to have an exit plan for anybody that's sick or possibly infected with COVID-19. And that will, the kids will go down the kindergarten wing and out that little side door this is the paved area behind the school. And the staff member, the nurse, more than likely will walk them to the front. And this is when we get called, we're here to pick up our child, and then we will walk them out that way and then back around to the front to meet you for you to take your child home. So that's our exit plan. So again, this is more of the possible outbreak. If a child or staff has been verified to be exposed to COVID-19, regardless of whether or not they have symptoms, the child or the staff member will not be permitted to enter the program space for 14 days of the last day of contact with the person who's been sick. So that's basically if you know you've been in touch with somebody or you've been around someone that has been given a positive result for COVID-19 and you were around them during that same time period that matches up, you would go back 14 days and you would have to not have your child be in our program during that time. And that's part of the attestation. You'll be checking off that as one of the things that happens as you drop your child off every day. You'll be sort of verifying that this has not happened. Again, the local Board of Health will notify each exposed child or staff member or parent, or caregiver directly to quarantine or further precautions. That's if they've been exposed to COVID-19 and that's a situation that kind of came from camp. That's when you'll get your Board of Health sort of notification. And local Board of Health will direct camp. They'll work with us on how to ensure that the program is safe for us to continue to have a program. based on anything that happens at camp. This is the communication of camp closings if something happens or staff absences and alternates. Camp Tahattawan will communicate with the child's parents or caregivers and staff via email for any and all camp closures that result from COVID-19 outbreaks or exposures. So that'll be something you'll get an email from us. So please check your email daily. This has to be a tested program for us. So when you give us an email address, and that should happen in your registration with MyRec, it should be updated with an email you check regularly. If it's a home email address that you don't use a lot, then change it to your work email address and just deal with the emails for a little while at work. And you should be checking your email every day. If you haven't gotten anything from us the night before or even the morning before, you should check it again one more time in case something happens in the wee hours of the night. We get notified that there was an outbreak with one of our people that were there. Then you may hear from us as early morning hours. So check your email sort of consistently when you're not around, because that's the system we will use to get in touch with you. As far as anything that's regarding COVID-19. Camp T will communicate any exposures or outbreaks with our local Board of Health agent. That's Jim Garaffi. There's his number. You're all welcome to call him or email him if you have any questions about these policies and procedures. We've been working very close with Jim to have a plan here to have a safe environment for your child. Our staffing this year will include senior staff only. We're only having over 18 staff, and we're rotating the schedules this year so that we'll have staff members who are alternates or on call. If something happens, if a staff member is ill, we will replace them immediately with another staff member who's at home and waiting to work that week, or they're our on-call staff. And this is we kind of brought everybody back based on this rotating schedule so that we would have enough people to replace as needed. So again, if a staff member can't work on that day, say it's a Wednesday, they can't work on Wednesday because they're ill. It may not be related to COVID-19, but they're going to be replaced for the week by our alternate. That's the way it's written in the Board of Health guidelines. So we will adhere to that in that policy. So everybody's asking when to wear. When will our child have to wear our masks or their masks at camp? So I just took this directly from the policy. There's the first line. I just changed it with Camp T. Will encourage the wearing of masks or cloth face coverings during the program day. Whenever 6 feet of physical distancing is not possible, masks must be worn. So our staff will be required to wear masks. Excuse me for 1 second. During the pre-screening check-in to camp, whenever within 6 feet of any child or a fellow staff, if they're walking the child to a restroom or water refilling station, as they're exiting and entering their places, their groups, they'll be wearing a mask, as your child will be at that moment. Anytime they're assisting with sunscreen, if they're making physical contact to put sunscreen on before we go out, we're hoping that you're doing that before you come in to camp, so that limits the amount of times we have to help with any sort of sunscreening. But if if a staff member is giving your child sunscreen and it's a lotion on their back, they'll have to wear masks and go through that whole procedure, or gloves, excuse me. But anytime they're within the 6 feet, so that's, obviously, even if they're spraying the sunscreen, they're within 6 feet, so they're going to have to wear a mask. Entering and exiting camp, again, whenever moving from the outside to the in or inside to the out, they will have to wear masks as they sort of travel from place to place. Especially when we're outside, we will make sure we're doing something socially distant so that kids and staff can remove their masks again. And then anytime a staff member needs to visit another group for any reason, they will have to wear a mask when they enter the room, and everybody in there will have to wear a mask when, say, someone from another group comes in. Campers will be required to wear masks when entering and exiting camp, whenever moving from inside to out or outside to in, getting up from their spots in the classroom and moving somewhere else, either to fill their water bottle or grab some shared materials that they need to get, or if their staff member, the counselor is coming to give them things, they would have to put the mask on because they're all going to be within that 6 feet. And once everybody returns their spots, they can take their masks off again. So again, we're filling their water bottles or going to the restroom. That's going to be another time they'll wear their mask to go do that. We're going to have a rain policy this year for the outside groups. If there's a forecast for heavy rain or thunderstorms, Camp T will cancel the outside programs, and you'll know where you are a week ahead of time. We're going to have 8 p.m. the night before be that time when that email goes out if we feel like it's a situation we need to cancel. This is really going to be a washout kind of day where heavy rains for the entire day, and the fields become really muddy and wet, and just sort of really kind of, it's a situation where you're not going to be able to enjoy the day. The inside groups will continue to stay at camp day. So those 6 groups won't be affected by this. So again, another reason to check your email regularly. So the new camp rates. So, for many reasons, but sort of like the basic reasons are the additional hours and the addition of a camp nurse and custodian, along with, a vast supply of materials for cleaning and sanitation that we have never really had to deal with before. We have to increase the camp rates to $300 for residents and $310 for non-residents per week. And that does not matter if you signed up in December or January and you got the discount rate. We will be adjusting your rates, unfortunately. This is something that we have to do. Our limited amount of capacity and the limited amount of resources we've had to increase the price in order to make camp work this year. So we apologize for that, but unfortunately we do not have a choice in this matter. In order to have camp run, this is a requirement for us to be able to maintain a camp atmosphere this year. I'm sure I'll get some questions about that. Waitlist members and the $0 down registrants, as of tomorrow, Megan and others in our office, although we're working from home, will be transferring your registration if you're a waitlist member. At this moment, there's nobody on the wait list that's above our capacity. So all of you that are on the wait list and all of you that have paid $0 down, there is room for you as of this moment right now. So if you're already on that list, you will have a spot, and you will be able to, once we transfer you over, you'll be able to look at your account and see that there's money due, and that means you're registered. But if you have any questions, please email us at the littletonrec@littletonma.org. Or any of the other emails that you've seen come from us. You're welcome to contact myself or Megan or anybody else in our office, and we'll help you. We will, if you're trying to call us at the office, we're not there usually, so an email is best, and we'll call you back as quickly as we can. For before and after care registrants, I'm sure you all know that we did cancel that this year. We have the 8 to 4 schedule. No before and after care. So I know a lot of you have been waiting to, figure out what's going to happen with those refunds. But with the rate change, if you've registered for, for before after care, we'll apply those credits to your account to help, accommodate the increase. And we will, we will contact you, or you'll get an email as well that has an updated bill of funds due. Also, the Camp Tahattawan, or the Camp TX Tahattawan Explorations Program, which was the last 2 weeks of camp, that's our field trip based program, and we were trying to do a model that we were going to run at Shaker Lane, but we're not going to be able to do that. That has been canceled as well. For all of those who are registered there, you'll be contacted by us via email tomorrow regarding your refund, and maybe you can we can use some of those refund credits to accommodate the increase in price. All right, question time. Anybody have any questions that they want to ask me? I know I just rambled on for what felt like a million minutes. Alicia's going to help me tell me who's got their hand up because I can't see everybody. Anybody have questions? I see people have their hands.
Just unmute myself. So Greg P has a question. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Greg P. Trying. Greg, we might be doing it at the same time. Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Are we good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You had mentioned that there are the 10-minute windows for drop-offs. If we're given a time that doesn't work, for example, the morning, it doesn't matter as much, but as close to 4 o'clock as possible would be ideal for me. Is there any negotiation room to switch that?
Yes. We'll handle that a case-by-case situation. So if you get an assigned time that doesn't work, shoot us an email back on that email we send it out from, and we'll make sure we take care of you. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, John, we also have Jen Gold, so I'm going to unmute Jen.
Hey, sorry, that was the exact same question I had. I'm texting with some other people. We all had the same question, so thank you for asking that. That's all. I think that would be really, really, speaking for the group, really helpful for people. I think some folks really need an earlier or later drop off and pick up. So the more flexibility we could have with that as parents, if you can work that out, the better. And thank you, Kaz and staff. You guys are awesome. This is great. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jen. I guess I should address the obvious elephant in the room as far as pickup and drop off is everybody's going to probably want to drop off at 8, 4. So hopefully not everybody comes at once. We're hoping to have the last of the kids be picked up at 4 and the staff be able to continue sanitizing and working for the next day quickly and then get out of there and be back in time to start sort of the next battle. But we'll do the best we can to accommodate those requests for sure. Anybody else?
Remember, you guys can do *9 if you are calling in, and you can use that to raise your hand.
Must have done a great job if nobody has questions.
You are
Oh, here we go.
amazing, John.
Someone has their hand up. Alicia. Trina?
Yeah, Trina Miller. Let me unmute. Oh, I muted James Ray. Sorry, James.
Yeah, what the heck?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Trina, I'm trying here. I can't see him. So Trina, just make sure you're not hitting the mute or unmute. I'm trying to get her to. Oh no, did she go? Let me scroll down my list and see if I can find her.
Her hand's back up again.
All right, let me find her.
She must be there somewhere.
Yeah, there she is. It's not unmuting for some reason. I'm sorry, Trina.
Why don't we move on to someone else while you work that out? Does anybody else have a question? There's more hands up.
John Bovell. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, Arthur. Say who you are.
I'm Arthur. Who are the camp counselors that are going to be there?
Hey, that's a great question, Arthur. We have a bunch of people from last year. Who are some of your favorites? We could tell you if they're coming back. Remember anybody? Because we could.
Guys.
Kaz will be there. What group were you in last year, Arthur?
Foxes.
You were the Foxes. Nice. Well, Breezy's going to be coming back. Catherine, lead of the Bobcats, is going to be coming back. So you'll know some people.
Arthur.
No, that's a really good
That was a
question.
good question.
We have how many returning staff, Kaz? We have 20, not including the 3 we're bringing over from track, but we have, I believe, 19 returning staff.
That sounds about right.
Which are all of our senior staff. We're also getting 3 counselors who came over from our teen adventure program that was running last year. They're going to be coming over and helping us out this year. Since Katie and Rachel, who work in the office, are going to be running that program. But we have a great staff this year. I'm glad Arthur asked about that.
Great question, Arthur, the king. Yeah, we have, and even though those guys are coming over from the Teen Adventures program, they've all worked at our aftercare program. They're very familiar with the kids at camp. And Jackson Ellis, who was a camp counselor first and then went to track last year, took the year off. He's, all these guys are very familiar with the kids at Camp T for sure. I think Trina's back. Are we able to work out?
Yes, I think Trina, you are good to go if you want to ask your question.
I think I am good, thank you. I was wondering, since the individual groups won't be commingling, are you going to be doing anything to try to place friend groups together within the smaller groups?
We can definitely take requests. So we will have the list of where you are the week in advance. We're not allowed to share those groups with you, like in who's in your group, but I'm sure parents will talk like they do when they get their teacher assignments every year. They'll be quickly familiar with who you're with. But if that's something you would like to do, of course, give us. We did that last year. We had some split up of groups based on these huge sizes of group sizes for different age groups, and it was easily done. As long as we do it at the beginning of the week and before that you get there, that's not going to be a problem. Once you're at camp, and if you've had a day where you're in a group, and you're not going to be able to switch to another group the next day. I hope that helps.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
I'm going down the list, and I'm not. Oh, we got Megan Duncan. I'm trying to. There you go, Megan. You are good to go.
Hi, everyone. Quick question. So I know you kind of covered it, but my son, it would be an incoming first grader, and I'm just curious on what the face mask, if you could provide really more detail of what that would look like in their classrooms, or when they're playing, say, sports, or using the sprinkler. If they're within their little 10-person cluster, are they still wearing the face masks, or is it social distancing outside of those 10 kids in that group that they would put on?
Yeah. So the answer to that question is anytime that they're within 6 feet of another child that would have to wear a mask, even in their own group. We were hoping that the guidelines would be a little more lenient on the groups, but they weren't. But we are going to present activities, especially the sports activities where your child won't be within 6 feet of another. So once we're outside and you're out in the fields, the mask will not be worn because we're going to be doing things that won't have you in close quarters with them. And even on the playground, we're going to have staff watching and making sure that kids aren't close together. But, we will be monitoring the physical distancing throughout the day, all day. That's going to be the number one thing we hit home at on our staff training next week, is that you have to be monitoring that. Obviously, it's going to be hard to do, but, we will be making sure that, that is not violated, that 6 foot distance between your child and another or a staff member, but we will be asking them to wear their mask at those particular moments. Anything else?
Erica, we have a question from her, so I'm going to unmute. I'm trying to. There we go. Erica, you are good to go.
All right. I just want to piggyback off of Jen's question regarding, and I'm sure everybody's main concern, which with pickup and drop off. Is it possible to do, say, an early pickup if we want to? How disruptive would that be to the day if we wanted to pick up early?
Yeah, that's not a problem. Just we have the camp team number, and you'll call us if you're on your way, or if you know you have, there's obviously things that come up, doctor's appointments, not the normal sort of daily grind where you might have something you need to be at that's not at camp, just give us a call. It's a little different because usually, years past, you'd have to track us down at the lake, or if we were on a field trip, that would make it really difficult. We're all going to be on the facility site all day, so calling us and having an early pickup is very easy to do. Just let us know.
Awesome. Thank you.
We've got Inna Landsman, so I'm going to unmute. And Inna, you are good to go.
Hi. So my daughter is registered for Camp T and Teen Adventures. And I know this is a little off topic, but you said some counselors are coming over from Teen Adventures. So is Teen Adventures now running?
Oh, Teen Adventures is running. Rachel Carbutt and Katie Judge are running that program. They're they're working off of a group of, as a maximum of 20. So they would need, so this year is a little different that I'll be working at the camp every day. I was there a lot in years past, but this year I'll specifically be at camp all day, every day. Rachel has taken that same angle at Teen Adventures. So she'll be there every day as one of the staff members. So the staff that would be required normally at Teen Adventures wasn't required this year. And so we've brought them over. They're very experienced, great staff members. We're super excited to have them at Camp T. So both programs are definitely running. I do know that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Let me scroll down our list real quick. And scroll back up. I don't see anybody else at this time, Kaz.
All right. Awesome. Well, that must mean we did a great job, Alicia. I'm thinking.
You did a great job, John.
My head's spinning. A lot of information. Obviously, if you have more questions, and I kind of implying here that obviously if you have questions about anything, and I included Sarah, our camp nurse. She mentioned to us earlier to include her email address. Sarah is a registered nurse in the state of Massachusetts. She's very experienced, worked at Children's, some co-op work down there, and some internships for her last year. So she is a very knowledgeable person in the field of nursing. So she is asked to share her email if you have any concerns about, obviously with the COVID-19 situation this year. Everybody, is extra on alert. So if you do have anything that you want to have, to make you feel a little bit better about how camp's going to be run, she's pretty familiar already, even though she's never been at Camp T. She's very, very well versed in the policies and procedures that we've been put forth to us this year already. So she's ready to roll. So her email address is there and my email address. So please, if you send her an email, please CC me so I can help her with that and, make sure she's, she's not on the clock yet, so to speak. So that's something that she's going to kind of do on her leisure on the way into camp. So she's going to, she's wanted to be available to all of you so that if you have any worries that you can contact her. But I'm
going to scroll up and down the list one more time, John.
Okay.
Let's see.
Everybody's afraid to have the cameras on.
I don't see anybody else with their raised hand at this time.
All right. Then we will call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Look for emails from us regarding all those wait lists and $0 registrations. And, it's going to be a little bit of a logistical thing to work through for our office as far as refunds. It may take some time, so just bear with us and be patient with us as far as that's concerned. There's been so many changes, and this has been the craziest 3 months that I can remember. So I'm very happy to be back at Park and Rec. I did not know it was going to be under this environment, but we're super happy to have camp. We're super happy to have your kids. We can't wait. The staff is very excited. We've been talking with them a lot. There's Sid the kid. Hello, Sid. And we will see all of you guys through masks at pickup soon enough and drop off. So Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. You're the best.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.